Cassie!
Roar again. Because the second Jurassic Park was a hit, and I said, okay, when do we start building the Jurassic Park ride? We designed that ride in a couple of months. I wrote everything but the last plunge through the water. I don't like roller coasters, so I always got off at the top. They would stop the ride vehicle and let me off. Jurassic Park was a very groundbreaking ride. Millions of people have ridden it, and they continue to ride it. It's exciting. I think the audience just loves to be able to look around and see everything when they want to see everything. The audience makes a choice of what to look at and when to look at it. What I like to say, riding the movies. Well, it's just a continuing saga or adventure.
By the time that we had started shooting the third Jurassic, every time you'd walk out of stage 12, all you'd hear was the Jurassic score booming out of the ride. And it's kind of strange to think that we're at a point with the third movie where the franchise had been so ingrained in the movie-going knowledge that here was this ride that was one of the most popular rides on the Universal Tour, and we're making a movie where the score is serenading us non-stop. We found that very amusing.
And to my surprise, everyone that was sort of running the ride looked like Alan Grant.
I liked the first film so much that right after I saw it, I went to Steven and I said, obviously you're going to do a sequel. Let me do the sequel. Of course, he ended up doing the sequel himself, but he did call me after the second Jurassic Park and he said, you still want to do the sequel? And I said, yep.
Joe is somebody that goes way back with Steven and I, where he was very intricately involved in many movies that we had done over the years. So he already had a great working relationship with Steven, and the two of them worked very closely in putting the story together and really arriving at what the approach would be to the movie and how it would relate to the other two.
On Jurassic Park 3, 5 weeks out from shooting, we decided to throw the script out and start over with a completely new idea. The original story was about several families who were on their way to the Galapagos, and they had to take two planes, and the kids were all in one plane, and the adults were all in another plane. And the kids somehow crash-landed on the island. And we had to start shooting on a certain day because there was a release date in effect.
Ready, and action.
But I think it did force us to sort of think on our feet and be creative.
Start down and you just go back backwards.
React backwards?
Yeah, and then it's a lot safer.
We had already designed several of the dinosaurs. We already had the Spinosaurus, and we'd started sculpting the raptor animatronic dinosaurs. So we adapted the new story to what we had been working with, and it was a much better story. It was the story of a broken family and the divorced parents who get together to rescue their kid. It was much cleaner and much simpler and so more relatable to an audience, I think.
Dr. Grant? Paul Kirby. Kirby Enterprises.
I saw Jurassic Park 1 in the theater probably the week it was released. And what a clever script, the little cartoon in the first one. I thought that was great screenwriting. Mr. DNA, wasn't that clever? The whole series was a game changer.
Ready, and action!
Even on number 3, I was very aware that I was working with the best and the brightest, who were doing the best work they had ever done before when it comes to the special effects.
It was a great cast. I like to think that I create the kind of atmosphere on a set where everyone feels very free to risk and to take chances.
And if anybody feel uncomfortable, just swim out the back end.
I'm uncomfortable.
I'm uncomfortable too.
It was a really friendly set, and we had a lot of fun.
My hair okay?
Téa Leoni especially, is just, she laughed all the way through the thing, and she kept us laughing too.
Does rehearsal mean anything to anybody anymore? Can we just go right away?
She's a guy's gal, you know, she's really cool. I loved acting with her. She's very funny.
Do-lang.
She'd just given birth. She was sitting and the plane was crashing, right? And we had to brace ourselves. So Téa got herself up like this with her chest in the air, and I said, why are you sitting like that? And she said, I'm only gonna have these things for a while and I wanna get them on film. She's a real cool broad.
I mean, I think the only way you could say it is an honor. All of it was an honor. In the case of William H. Macy and Téa, you know, I get to play their son. That's incredibly complimentary. And then also to couple that with really kind people makes the experience exponentially more genuine, but also special.
You're Alan Grant. What are you doing here?
Your parents, invited me along.
I love that guy. He is just the coolest individual. He's Sam Neill. He gives one look and you're just like, oh, he's so insanely talented and such a kind, sweet individual, but just so cool.
It was important for Sam to be back. Somebody who had a past history with all of this needed to come back in and try to wrestle control of the situation. I think it was important to bring back one of our first actors and one of our first characters.
You have no idea how important it is to us that you come along. It would make all the difference.
I was happy to go back and have a look at Alan Grant again. They didn't need me for the second one, and I felt slightly missed out. But here I was back in the third one, and I was very pleased to be there. And I'd had a bit of time to think about what the character was and how it should be done. I think I cracked it the second time around better than I did in the first.
In movies like this, there's an awful lot of running and falling and screaming and getting up and running some more, and it's really hard work to do. You know, it's hard stuff for an actor. Sam was just, he was great about that kind of stuff. There was nothing that I asked him to do that he wouldn't try.
I just want to say, if you ever need help with anything, sometimes you forget to ask. So you can call me. Anything, anytime.
Jurassic 3 came up, both Kathy and Steven asked me to do it, and it seemed hilarious to get to work on, and luckily wonderful friends who were working on the script, I think came up with a really clever and brilliant way to help me be part of the story.
Listen to me! The river!
I just couldn't have had a better time. It was a very short but wonderful time. And Joe Johnston, who I'd worked with on the film October Sky, was directing it, and Joe is so lovely. And so I think because we'd had a former relationship, that was great, because I kind of couldn't have imagined doing it without Steven, except that I knew who was sort of taking over, and Steven was so supportive and such an enormous part of it.
And strangely, we went to Hawaii, one of the most beautiful places on Earth, one of the most beautiful places in Hawaii. And no offense, Hawaii, it didn't hold a candle to what they built on the sound stages. The sets for this thing were magnificent.
On Jurassic 3, we had a new production designer, Ed Verreau, who again is his background is in effects and understands the process backwards and forwards, and so he really was another good choice. And in the jungle that he created, I mean, literally, everything was brought in from the outside. It was basically nothing there when we started. All the right foliage and plants and the ground, the dirt and everything that was brought in so that we could shoot this massive jungle sequence as a set.
It was really an amazing set, that jungle. And Ed worked with Shelley Johnson very closely to make it as real as it looked. He devised this lighting system where there were slashes of light. So one section of foliage would be in light, and then he would introduce a shadow element and another section of light, so that it was an optical illusion. Even when you stood there and looked at the jungle, it looked like it was much deeper than it was. We shot several weeks in Hawaii on Kauai, because there are things that you can't shoot on a soundstage, and there are There's several sequences in Jurassic Park 3 where I can't tell the difference. I can't tell where we're in the jungle and where we're on the stage because it all looks so real. It's really great.
They created a rainforest, essentially, in every single studio we used. That's another thing that made it so easy to be able to pretend and imagine and get into your characters in the situation that you're in. You step on set and you're in a jungle.
Certainly one of the toughest things would be to do our plane crash.
Fuel cutter! Going down!
Two things that I remember, catching my attention right away. The plane crashes into a tree. So we had to build a tree and hide hydraulics into it so we could move this plane around as though it was, once again, slipping and moving.
We're building a version of this top of this tree, which we're calling the low tree. It's going to be down at that end of the stage. And the plane, which you just saw on stage 18, will be basically hooked up in that tree, and then it'll be greened around. And so we'll have our actors, we'll do all of our shaking, our Spinosaurus will be attacking it and all that down there. And then when we get to the scene where we actually drop the plane out of the tree, we'll end up using this big tree here. We'll take the fuselage that we've built that's been designed to drop, we'll haul it all the way up to the top of the stage. Michael Lantieri's guys will rig that, and then they'll drop it.
And the other thing is, this fuselage that crashes has got to tumble along the ground at some point, and I'm just thinking, with people in it, and how are we going to roll it, and how are we going to do this?
That's a great sequence, actually. And, we had to be in the plane when it crashed,
JP3 came around, I was excited because, enough time had passed since we had done Lost World, and we felt like a pride of ownership, with these dinosaurs. So we really wanted to be involved. And I met Joe Johnston, and, he was excited, and this was fresh for him. And I thought it was a neat adventure story, and it was technically very challenging for us.
We needed to find a dinosaur that was at least looked bigger and badder than the T-Rex. And we did a lot of research on it. We had a lot of different dinosaur candidates. But the T-Rex is everyone's favorite dinosaur. Everyone loves the T-Rex. So we knew we were sort of treading on sacred ground here. We're gonna kill the T-Rex. And we thought, okay, let's do it. Let's just do it right up front. Let's say, okay, this is the new kid on the block. The Spinosaurus is bigger and tougher.
It was really hard for me to grasp the fact that the Spinosaurus was more powerful than the T-Rex. Because I loved the first movie so much, and the T-Rex was the king.
The Spinosaur was one of my favorite dinosaurs to design because it's huge. It's bigger than a T-Rex. It's got a head of a crocodile, basically, and this giant fin sail on its back. So the challenge was to make that look real and not monster-like. And I think we pulled it off. I couldn't wait to see the clash between the T-Rex and the Spinosaur because that was really raising the bar as far as who was king of the jungle,
The battle between the two of them, between the T-Rex and the Spinosaurus, I think it's the only time that I'm aware of where we have a digital dinosaur fighting an animatronic dinosaur. We had shots where the Spinosaurus is biting the T-Rex, and the T-Rex was entirely CG at the time. Even though we had an animatronic T-Rex, it was sort of the old generation. It was really interesting to design those shots and make it believable because, the Spinosaurus was biting something that wasn't there. And then we would do reference shots of the T-Rex for the lighting for the computer guys. But I think that's probably one of my favorite parts of the film because of just what we were trying to do, creatively with the technology.
The Spinosaurus we did was basically, it was like acting with a backhoe, a big one. This thing was huge. They had all these hydraulics where it would open its mouth. It was quite an experience to act with a backhoe that could rip your head off in any second. We had the Velociraptors, of course, which they had the new and improved Velociraptors. And, ooh, they were scary. At the time, I thought, I don't know much, but I do know this. Do not mess with the Velociraptor.
They set a trap. They actually set a trap.
The Raptors in JP3, you know, we wanted to give them more personality, another look there, and, you know, it kind of had the little punkish kind of feel or look to it. And, you know, with new color schemes on those.
Aesthetically, they took on more bird attributes. That was a huge thing that they were talking about because they all came from birds or there was a connection there. Those new advances in the Raptor were definitely because of that.
The Raptors were so much more a character in the third one because of the notion that they had, you know, mental processes, that they could reason and they could hunt together and all that.
What are you saying? What are you looking for?
We made much more of that aspect of the story, and it was really important to get all the animators on board trying to create the same creature. It is a different and striking image of the new Raptor.
There's something about those raptors, isn't it, that really puts the willies up here. So I did the most work with them. I got to know them very well. They got to know me very well. We hung out together. And after a while, they don't look so scary. They're just kind of cute things. You can tickle them under the chin, and they've got that kind of, they looked as if they were eager to go to work every day, you know. They look enthusiastic about being in a Jurassic Park film.
Oh my God.
What is it?
It's a bird cage.
For what?
The Pteranodon was a creature that I always wanted to see in these movies, and it was probably the most difficult creature to convincingly capture on film because it's such an odd thing. I mean, it flies and it walks, and it's, you know, 8 feet tall. We actually built a full-size Pteranodon suit that sadly did not work at all. It was obvious, you know, after the first couple of minutes that there's no way a man as talented and as strong and as lifelike as he's trying to be is going to make this thing look real. So the Pteranodon became a computer-generated creature almost right away.
It was a very tricky set to work in because there were always people up high, always cables and travelers and all of this stuff happening. And then on top of that, constant. We never went in there that there wasn't mist going and fog, and on any given day there could be 200 people in there. So it was really crowded and very tricky sets to work on because of the rigging and everything it takes to, you know, to do that.
That's a spooky scene. The fog was thick and you couldn't see more than about 4 or 5 feet in front of you. And those metal walkways just walking over everything. And we were quite high in the air.
I keep saying that that was my favorite, but it was one of my favorite creatures in the film, just because the way the thing looks visually is just so alien that I wanted to give it sort of a horror film reveal. I wanted to see it walking out of the mist and appearing out of the murk like that.
We did the babies, which I think were really successful. We had all of those in the nest, and then that I was particularly happy when they started to attack. I think it was really organic how it was grabbing his coat and trying to bite and nip at him. And once again, that was another great combo thing, because then you have the CGI ones that are flying, trying to get at him and land. So really nice combination of the two disciplines.
I think with all three Jurassic Parks, it was really important that the effects be grounded in reality. It meant that we could put something physically in the space, we could have actors interacting with the dinosaurs for performance.
But you have to end these movies in a big way, you know. We had an animatronic dinosaur in water, at night, in the rain, with fire, you know, and it was just, it was a pretty grueling shoot those nights.
The Spinosaur from Jurassic Park 3. That thing was going to work in water, so we built that particular effect with that in mind. Whole different skin on the head of it so it wouldn't absorb the water. What was really amazing about that dinosaur was that when its head would go down in the water and it was searching for the cast that were trying to get away from it, that thing was even bigger than a T-Rex. It was like 24,000 pounds, 12 tons, over 1,000 horsepower, and it would just displace the water. It looked like there was a real beast in the water. It was amazing.
It was rugged shooting. That big climactic scene when I was on that great crane with the Spinosaurus was harrowing. I climbed up on the thing. I guess I'm about 50 feet off the water. And I looked down in this water and I thought, if anything happened and this crane went down, I'm dead. I was not disappointed to be climbing down off of that thing. It was such a gung-ho cast that we wanted to do as much as we could. But if we did what they told us to, we were completely safe.
We put all of them in some really uncomfortable situations, you know, and I know they were sore at the end of the day. They were all troopers.
What, give up showbiz?
In 1975, I was designing appliances and really boring, mundane stuff. And a friend of mine said, hey, let's go see Jaws. It just come out. And I remember coming out of it thinking, I would rather be doing this. So I sort of give Steven credit for getting me into the movie business. I was really honored that Steven wanted me to do the third one. I mean, it's a huge franchise. He created it.
I spent 6 months living it every day and then seeing how it all came together and how many different people it took to make something so epic and great. I think I was in awe of everything about it. It was quite possibly one of the coolest experiences I've ever had.
I really like the third film. I'm very proud of it, and I think it works really well. It moves like an express train. I think it's a bloody good film.
These films will stand up for a long, long time. And it's because, at the end of the day, the stories are at once ever so human and ever so grand.
I'm very proud that I was part of that Jurassic Park trilogy, but there's also something that's sad, and it was very close to me, is that we lost, since those movies, two of the great originators of it, Michael Crichton as the author, the brainchild behind it all, and then my boss, my mentor, teacher, and my friend Stan Winston, who I worked for 25 years.
Stan Winston is the reason Jurassic Park worked on the level that it did.
There was nobody like Stan Winston when he was working in our industry, and there will never again be anybody like Stan Winston now that he's gone. Stan loved his work. He was a creative genius.
Obviously, it started with Michael Crichton's book. He understood the power of being able to allow people insight into scientific theories in a way that they didn't even realize they were learning something.
No one will ever be another Michael Crichton. For millions of people all over the world, he made science fun. He made science dramatic. He made it suspenseful. He made it horrifying. He wrote cautionary tales, and he took tens of millions of us along for the ride and for the read.
Welcome to Jurassic Park.